So what does coronary heart disease actually mean? Well, the coronary arteries are the major blood vessels that supply oxygenated blood to heart muscle or the myocardium. Now, since the heart muscle needs a constant supply of oxygen, any blockage within these arteries will lead to damage or death to the myocardium. And if the damaged area is large enough, it would lead to an irreversible heart failure and death. The major cause of blockage, of course, is atherosclerosis, and sometimes it's just simply referred to as plaque within the coronary arteries. In this presentation, I will focus on the basic mechanisms underlying plaque formation and progression. Here I'm showing a schematic that illustrates the basic structure of the intima, or the inner part of the coronary artery. The innermost layer of this artery is made up of endothelial cells, and this endothelial barrier tends to be semi-porous in a sense that it's permeable to certain lipoproteins and phagocytic cells such as macrophages. Now, under normal circumstances, the lumen of the artery is large enough to allow all cells to go through. As you can see here, red blood cells and LDL lipoproteins are in circulation and are constantly flowing through this artery. Now, some LDL particles, particularly those that happen to be very small, tend to easily penetrate this endothelial barrier and make its way into the intima proper of this artery. Once inside, the LDL particle will undergo oxidation. Now remember, this is oxygen-rich environment, so oxidation process can happen fairly quickly. When the LDL particle is oxidized, we get an oxidized form of LDL. So macrophages that are in circulation are attracted to this oxidized LDL, and they will also enter the intima where this oxidized LDL is. And they will go ahead and phagocytose these oxidized LDL particles. As they engulf more and more oxidized LDL particles, these macrophages become bloated with lipids, and they're known as foam cells. Now, normally, as I will show you later, HDL can actually remove some of this cholesterol from these macrophages and keep things under balance. But if the HDL levels are low enough, then HDL particles cannot keep up with the progression of foam cells, and these foam cells will keep getting bigger and bigger. If the foam cells continue to get bigger and bigger, and if they keep taking in oxidized LDL particles, at some point these LDL particles will prove poisonous to the macrophages, and so the macrophages will actually undergo apoptosis or programmed cell death, or they might even die by the process of simple necrosis. The death of macrophages then results in recruitment of other white blood cells that will accumulate in this area. Now, whenever you have an accumulation of immune cells, white blood cells in particular, you have release of inflammatory cytokines by these cells. So these cytokines are released by these accumulating white blood cells, and these cytokines and other chemicals end up damaging the endothelial layer. Consequent to this inflammatory damage, the body tries to actually contain this damage, and in the process of containing the damage, it creates a scar or a plaque. And this plaque is basically rich in lipids, particularly oxidized form of lipids, because they came from LDL particles that were oxidized. Now, after some time, if this continues to go on for a long time, this atherosclerotic plaque may actually be fortified by calcium deposits also.